Takes taxis every day, but of course when he is able to wake up earlier, nagbabas siya. And he can really see the difference between taking a taxi and taking the bus. So when he started tracking his expenses, he realized how much money he is losing by waking up late and taking a cab to work. So those things, yung pala, it will already helps you when it comes to budgeting. You're just listing down your expenses. So that's very important. Don't think that it's something na very, it has no use. Of course, these are real world purchases. When it comes to online purchases, of course, kasama na sa lifestyle natin, ang bumili online, especially for freelancers where we pay a lot of services online. Personally, ako, I pay for web hosting, I pay for domains, and a lot of the shopping online stores, it's already ingrained in the Filipino mindset to buy online. So when it comes to online purchases, my tip is to have a dedicated payment method to keep your records organized. Okay? And that makes it easier to monitor your spending this way. So one of the most popular way to pay online is, of course, to use our credit card. Ang tip ko lang when you are using your credit card, turn on the OTP feature, yung one-time PIN. Because if your credit card gets hacked and you don't have an OTP, someone could just be purchasing online. A friend of mine, that happened to a friend of mine. Nung dumating yung bill, doon pala niya nakita bakit may mga purchases online na hindi ko alam. So if you have an OTP, of course, whenever you do a transaction online, you get the one-time PIN so that your account or your credit card is more secure. And when you are buying something from a store or paying for a service na iba yung denomination, you have to be aware of the currency rates. So sabi nung friend ko, naiinis siya ngayon kasi mataas yung exchange rate ng dollar to peso. So syempre, he's paying around $50 a month for the web hosting of his website. So pag i-charge siya sa credit card, mataas, no? Times 54 pesos. So, sabi ko, if that's what you're doing, then you have to adjust your budget because you have to be aware how much the conversion rate is. And it goes to show that when your billing statement arrives, you have to double check it. Okay? So, especially online, of course, there are ways to secure your account, but you can never tell when your account can get compromised. There are actually hackers that brute force yung method, so they just run an algorithm to guess your PIN, no? To guess your credit card number, tsaka yung mga ibang security features. So you have to double check your transactions. Personally, I actually prefer PayPal when it comes to online transactions. So one of the reasons why I love using PayPal when it comes to online transactions is because there's buyer protection against fraudulent transactions. Okay? And of course, sa cellphone ko, nakatag yung PayPal email na meron akong notification whenever an email arrives sa inbox ng PayPal account ko. So when that happens, so that whenever there's a transaction, parang OTP, di ba? Na I get a notification that there was a transaction that occurred in my PayPal account. Ang maganda sa PayPal, what I've seen from friends na nagkaroon ng fraudulent transaction, you can immediately dispute that. Sa credit card kasi, you have to create a report, submit it to customer service, wait for around 90 days before for the investigation to finish. But sa PayPal, it's faster, it's easier. One of the things that I personally like also when I use PayPal is you have a multi-currency wallet. So since I do a lot of, I have a lot of subscriptions sa ibang bansa, like the web hosting, the domain name, I also pay some for some services. Yung PayPal ko, it's not just in Philippine peso. I have US dollar tsaka pounds, no? So that helps me avoid conversion cost. So syempre I have clients who are based in the US who pay me in US dollars. So I keep it as a US dollar. So when I pay for my web hosting, I use that wallet to pay for that. So wala akong conversion rate cost. And of course, this is also one of the things that is very advantageous. You have your real-time transaction. You have your real-time records. So nasi-check ko agad for any fraudulent transactions. And lastly, since I have my list of expenses in an Excel file, what I do is just I create a report in my PayPal account, a summary of all my transactions for the month. I download it, and I just copy-paste it on my Excel. So it's very convenient for me. So a lot of online shopping right now, they accept PayPal already. I know some airlines also can now accept PayPal. So it helps to have one payment method to use when it comes to online transactions. Okay pa kayo? So, when it comes to budget monitoring, it's also important to take a look at your cash flow. And more than that, to increase it. Kasi kahit anong gawin natin na pagtitipid, if talagang kulang yung kinikita natin, there's no other way to address that but to increase how much we are earning. So increase your cash flow. One of the immediate things that you can do is to audit your rates and fees. Okay, so you can research on your peers in the industry. I know some freelancers, yung rate nila parang 3 years na yung pa rin yung rate nila. So sinasabi ko, you have to update yourself. Maybe you can already increase your rates. And when it comes to increasing your rates, it helps to get certifications also. Off the top of my head, Google and Facebook, they all offer online courses that you get certified. Meron kang magiging Google AdWords expert certification, there's the Facebook Blueprint certification, etc. So when you get these certifications, most of these are free. Then you can now justify increasing your rates. So that's something that you can consider. And if you have a long-term client, you can simply just ask for a raise. I have a friend who is based in Cubao. He's been working as a virtual assistant for a real estate company in the US for at least 3 years now. And one time he was saying to me, because of the recession in the States a few years back, they're trying to his client was trying to negotiate his rates. No? So sabi ko sa kanya, pwede mong pagbigyan. Of course, you understand that they're going through a difficult time. But when the recession ended, I had to remind him na okay na yung US, so dapat yung rates mo mas mataas na ulit. So he totally forgot about it. So he was still getting paid dun sa rates na ni-negotiate ng client niya before. So I told him, now it's your time to renegotiate how much they're paying you. So it was just a simple email, and the reply agad na, oh yeah, of course, we can now raise your fees. And that's why I included it there. Sometimes you just have to ask. Minsan, of course, some clients, they're just really too busy with developing their business. They're just too focused on the things that they're doing. Sometimes they forget na, oh nga, no, you deserve a raise. You've been doing good work for me. for several months already. So you don't forget to do that. Okay? Another thing that you can do to increase your cash flow is, of course, scale up your freelancing business. There's an interesting thread that I read. She's a virtual assistant, and whenever she asks sa mga Filipino Facebook groups if anyone wants to get tips on how to become a successful virtual assistant, a lot of the comments ng mga Filipino freelancer there is sinasabi is, paano ko itataas yung rate ko as a virtual assistant? How do I get an increase in my income? Tapos sinabi niya, she's also part of virtual assistant groups na iba-iba, mga foreigners, particularly based in the States. And she's actually a virtual assistant coach already. Ang ginagawa niya, she also asked the same question. Hi, I'm a virtual assistant. I'm here to help new VAs on how to become more successful and how to earn more. And a lot of the questions that she gets dun sa Facebook group na maraming foreigners is, I'd like to learn more on how to scale up my freelancing business. Okay? So sinabi niya, there's really a change, different mindset between sa Filipino community at sa international community of VAs. Yung mga international community, they really focus on treating their freelancing career as a business. Okay? So it helps to change that mindset. Okay? So of course, you look at it as, this is something that I'm doing right now, but the long-term plan or the long-term goal really is to eventually convert it into a business. And you can start small. When I say starting small, you can actually, some of the projects that you're doing, you can try to outsource some of the modules or some of the tasks to other freelancers, to other new freelancers. Because eventually, you will be able to take in more projects because you now have some people who can do the things that you're doing. So you can hire or outsource other freelancers, and then, of course, for convenience and for easy records, you can send payments to them through PayPal as well. Okay? When you start outsourcing some of the freelancing tasks that you do, you will find yourself having more free time. So that's very important because it's now an opportunity for you to find new income streams. So a lot of the freelancers that I've met, they started blogging. When I say they started blogging, it's not just a personal blog. They started creating micro-niche blogs, that's what we call them. So a blog focused on a specific topic with the goal to make money. Of course, there are different reasons why we start a blog, but for this particular reason, they start a blog with an exit strategy of eventually selling the blog to someone else or growing the blog into a passive income stream or using the blog to sell some product. So you can sell digital products, very popular right now, selling ebooks because it just takes around 20 to 30 pages to create an ebook. So it's just a short project. I actually know someone who lists down an outline of her ebook and then hires a writer to write the whole ebook. And then that ebook, she pays the writer around 5,000 pesos. And then she sells the ebook for around $10. So imagine she just needs to sell around 10 copies of the ebook to be able to para mabawi yung ginastos niya doon sa writer na 5,000 pesos. So it's a very profitable venture. So you can of course offer new services such as coaching for new freelancers. Katulad nung na-mention ko kanina, that friend of mine, she's been a VA for almost 8 years now. And a lot of her projects are already being done by staff. So sabi niya, I don't really want to take in more projects. The reason why I outsource this task is because I want to do something else. And one of the things that she was able to, that she chose to do is to do mentoring or coaching sessions. If you're wondering how much you can earn, well, that friend of mine, she asked for around 1,000 pesos per hour for a one-on-one coaching sa isang new freelancer, or particularly a new virtual assistant, a new VA who wants to explore that kind of career. So sabi ko, how many consultations do you do in a day? Sabi niya, well, I do around 1 or 2 consultations. A lot of my clients are OFWs who are looking for some extra income abroad. So we do Skype and we talk for an hour and then they pay me through PayPal, etc. So sabi ko, that's not bad, no? Even if it's just one session a week, Monday to Friday, that's still extra 20,000 pesos. Kaya wala kang puhunan kundi yung stock knowledge mo at yung laway mo, di ba? You just talk, you just share your knowledge. So that's a very profitable venture also. And of course, there are many online opportunities. You can explore affiliate marketing also, and I know some people, they started doing stock market trading, forex trading, etc. The point is, when you have free time, you use it as an opportunity to find a new income source. And eventually, of course, when you're earning more, your budget becomes bigger, so you can now start affording more things. So the ultimate goal is to make sure that you are spending less than what you are earning. So whenever I meet someone who has a problem with their finances, I tell them, you have to study your cash flow. And when I say cash flow, siyempre meron kang expenses and meron kang income. So I tell that person, if you want to spend less than what you're earning, you have to minimize your expenses. First, why? Because that's the easiest thing to do. And that's the easier thing to do. So mas madaling bawasan yung gastos kesa itaas yung sinisweldo or itaas yung in-earn natin. But you should always do both. That's why the first part of my talk is really about knowing where you are. How much are you spending each month and how much are you earning each month? And then once you know that, you have to minimize your expenses and then find ways to increase your income. Okay? So that's the ultimate goal when you are trying to fix your budget or trying to fix your money management. I tell people this is really the foundation, and it really helps to have a specific goal. May mga kilala ko, ang goal nila is, I just want to save money. I tell them na, well, you just put 100 pesos in your wallet and then you already save money, diba? And you already reach your goal to save money. So that means saving money is not really an excellent goal to set for yourself. What I tell them is, try something that is more measurable than very specific. And I tell them, why don't you just try to spend less than what you're earning? So know how much you're earning, know how much you're spending, and make sure that your income is always greater than your expenses. So now that's something that you can measure, right? And something that you can also challenge yourself. If you are able to spend 100 pesos less than what you earn this month, then try for 200 pesos next month, 300 pesos, and before you know it, you're spending around 3,000, 4,000 pesos less than what you're earning. And 3,000 for extra 3,000, 4,000 pesos a month, that can really go a long way already. So now that you're aware of where your money is going, the next step is to plan your budget. And when it comes to planning your budget, it's really, as I mentioned earlier, it's really going through your list of expenses and pinpointing areas where you can minimize or eliminate. So I tell people, you have to learn how to streamline your expenses. So when I say similar expenses, you have to go back to your list of expenses. So this is where the Excel file comes in handy. So label and sort essentials and non-essential expenses. So some people will say na needs versus wants, or some people will say na necessary and unnecessary expenses. Para sa akin kasi, I like using this term better. Yung essential, which is stands for necessary, and non-essential. So, pag sinabi kasi unnecessary, it's just telling yourself na dapat hindi ka gumagastos dyan, diba? Pero sa akin, I think it's more friendly to say that this is a non-essential expense. Meaning, this is an expense that I can live with, but pag kinakapos ako, since non-essential siya, I can forgo it for now until I am able to make more money. So, sort your expenses between these two categories. And also, put a tag for each expense kung fixed cost pa siya or variable cost. So, what do I mean by fixed and variable cost? So, yung fixed cost, ibig sabihin monthly, hindi nagbabago yan. So, your rent or your mortgage, yung internet subscription nyo, or your communication, yung plan nyo sa cellphone or yung internet plan nyo sa bahay. So, that's also a fixed cost. And subscriptions. So, for myself, yung monthly hosting ko, and then some of the social media marketing tools that I use, meron siyang monthly subscription rates also. And I'm also a member of a mastermind group na merong subscription fee. Well, annual yun. So that's part of my fixed cost also. So variable cost, yung hindi mo alam kung magkano yung gagastusin mo, but you have an idea what is the range. So for the groceries, transportation, and of course, entertainment expenses. So meron ka list of your expenses, dalawa yung naka-label sa kanya. Is this expense an essential or a non-essential cost? Is this a fixed cost or a variable cost? Okay, so once you are able to tag all your usual expenses, sabihin natin after a month, you do that. Then again, as I mentioned earlier, the process of doing it, you're already having a lot of ideas. You will already think of ideas on how to become better at managing your budget. Wala pa talagang ginagawa, pero the ideas will start coming in. So, of course, the goal on this part is to eliminate, minimize, downgrade non-essential expenses and find more affordable alternatives for essential expenses. So, one of the recent things that I was able to help someone with is, insurance agent siya. Insurance agent. So, she often goes out and meet clients. And she tells me that she often meets clients in coffee shops or in restaurants. So, I told her, how much do you spend when you meet these clients? So, she spends around 10,000, 12,000 pesos. Of course, bakit gano'n? Kasi may food, since quote-unquote, nililigawan niya yung client, diba? She's selling a product. So, she's usually the one who pays for the coffee or pays for the food, etc. So, I told her, this is something essential for you because this is how you get clients or this is how you make your sales. However, why don't you consider becoming a member of a co-working space or getting a virtual office? Because usually, I know a virtual office or a co-working space will cost you around 5,000 to 8,000 pesos a month. And that's already unlimited use. You have unlimited coffee, and they have private spaces where you can hold meetings. So that's what she did a couple of months ago, and she told me that there's a difference when it comes to her spending. So she no longer spends around 10,000 to 12,000 pesos a month just for the incidental expenses of selling her policies. She's now down to around 8,000 pesos a month, and that's already a big help when it comes to her finances. Okay, so that's an example of finding more affordable alternatives. And that will not be possible if you did not monitor your expenses, di ba? So, if you often go out and meet clients, you can never really tell how much you're spending in selling your products until you jot them down. So once you know exactly on average how much you're spending on a particular item, then it's easier for you to find alternatives. It's easier for you to decide if this is a cheaper or a more affordable alternative. Okay? So I hope that was something that will help you. When it comes to streamlining your expenses, of course, there are a lot of articles online, there's a lot of tips on how to minimize your spending. For me, this is the most helpful. Personally, this is what I recommend. This is where I recommend that you start. First, you have to target and focus on dealing with your worst budget offenders. What does that mean? Sometimes, as I've said, unless you list down your expenses, you'll never know where most of your money is going. So, just an example, a friend of mine, he likes drinking soft drinks whenever he has lunch and dinner. So, kahit na may bangon siya, bibili pa rin siya ng soft drinks sa labas. Of course, when he dines out, lagi siya ng soft drinks, etc. So, I told him, how much are you spending for the cola, for the soda? So, he was surprised na close to around 4,000 pesos yung nagagastos niya sa soft drinks pa lang. Sabi niya, 4,000, that's even higher than my Meralco. Di ba? Kasi sabi niya, he lives in a condo and yung monthly electric bill niya is around 1,500 a month. And he says that, wow, 4,000 just for soda. So sabi ko, now, it's something that you can work with, no? I don't know. Of course, I don't want to dictate to you that stop drinking soft drinks. But maybe sometimes you can find alternatives. And ang ginawa niya, ngayon, bumibili na lang siya ng 2-liter soft drinks. He stocks it at home. And then, nagbabangon siya ng soft drinks siya. So, mas mura. Kasi 2-liter Coke daw, and mention ako kailangan, 2-liter Coke, that's around 60 pesos. 2 liters yun. But you go to a restaurant, how much is a can of soft drinks? It's around 60 also, di ba? 90 even. So, by targeting yung mga worst budget offenders, when I say budget offender, hindi ito yung mga biggest expenses, no? Of course, mas malaki pa rin yung grocery or yung kuryente or whatever. But, yung pinakamalaking gastos mo na non-essential. You try to solve that first. And that really helps. The second tip is something that has been very helpful for me also. Don't shop without a list. And never do your groceries when hungry. Okay? So, very simple tip, pero very, very effective para sa akin. Of course, kasi ako, I'm a freelancer, I'm an entrepreneur. I usually, quote-unquote, work alone at home or outside. So, yung mga chichirya, malakas ako dyan. So, I remember myself, pag nag-grocery ako na medyo gutom, I tend to buy more junk food. No? Mas marami akong chichirya na nakukuha. Kasi, may bagong chichirya, kukunin ko to. No? Pero pag busog ako, at meron akong listahan, meron akong shopping list, mas focus ako, ito lang yung chichirya na bibiling ko. It's easier for me to ignore the other things in the groceries. So, one of the tips that I can give you, especially if you're the one doing the groceries, no, you keep yung receipt nyo, yung date receipt, tapos you go through the list one at a time. Pwede nyo checkan yung mga impulse purchases nyo sa groceries. Pag nasa cashier ka, di ba, usually marami pa naka-display doon. Those are actually impulse items. And I've seen personally my brother. Yung brother ko, pag nasa grocery kami at nandun sa cashier, minsan nakakaisip, may battery pa ba kami? Parang wala na battery. Tapos Yung toothbrush ko parang matagal ko nang hindi napapalitan ko bibili ng toothbrush. Tapos magagalit yung asawa niya. Sabi niya, kung bumili ka na rin ng toothbrush, kakabili mo na ng toothbrush last month. Di ba? So, those impulse purchases, you have to seize them, no? And the only way to know is to, again, list down your expenses. And one of the tips that has been very helpful for me is to study my take receipts sa groceries. You can check. Minsan kasi, another good example, mahilig kasi ako sa corned beef. So, I usually buy corned beef for breakfast. So, one time, when I was going through my take receipts, I noticed that I bought around 4 cans of corned beef. And then, the next month, when I was going through my take receipt, bumili na naman ako ng 4. So, parang naging habit ko to buy 4 cans of corned beef every time na nag-grocery ako. And then, when I checked my kitchen, meron pa akong parang 2 or 3 doon. So, sabi ko, maybe it's time for me to buy less, siguro 3 or 2 cans of corned beef na lang. Kasi, nasa stock siya. So, the ideal for me siguro is 3 cans lang. So, hindi ako nag-overstock. Sometimes, that helps, knowing how much you're actually consuming in a month. So that you can lessen the quantity that you're buying, especially for the groceries. So, again, it's something that you can only know if you study yung expenses nyo, if you go through the grocery take receipt that you have. Okay? So be aware of your impulse buying habits to avoid unnecessary spending. There's a famous tip, and sabi nung tip when it comes to impulse purchases, pag meron kang gustong bilhin, you have to ask yourself, is this a need or a want? But more than that, what has helped me through the years is, if it's a non-essential item, I wait for a week before I purchase it. So, sometimes I'm going to the mall, may nakita ako magandang t-shirt, no? And I gusto yung shirt. Pero, even if I can afford it, I know that it is a non-essential item. I tell myself na next week ko ito bibilhin. And more often than not, siguro 80% of the time, makakalimutan ko siya. Kasi hindi ko na siya nabili. And wala nawawala sa akin. No? Nothing, I don't lose anything. So, it's something that has helped me curb my impulse purchases. To give myself 1 week. So, after a week, pag naalala mo siya na, 1 week na, pwede ko na siyang bilhin. Then, it means na it's something that you really want. And if you can afford it, then go ahead and treat yourself and buy that item for you. But the rule there is you give yourself some time to subconsciously think about it. And I can guarantee there will be items na makakalimutan mo na gusto mo pala siya at hindi mo na siya mabibili. And in a way, you are able to save money. Huwag kayong maniniwala sa mga mall sale. I'm sure you already noticed, parang every month may mall sale, di ba? So, you're not really missing out on anything. Plus, I've also discovered, pag may nakita akong gusto kong items while sa mall, I ask the salesperson na mayroong magkaka-promo ba nito? Magsisale ba to anytime soon? Sometimes they say na, sir, may promo kami next month or next week. Or magsisale kami next week. So, instead of me buying impulsively right now, I give myself, sige, so babalik na lang ako next week. So, kung maalala ko, if I remember it, then I buy it. But if I don't remember it, that's also good. So, just means that it was just something out of impulse, yung need ko to buy that item. Okay? So, you try that. What I'm sharing with you are tips that has worked for me and that has worked for some of the people I know. So, I hope that when you do them yourself, it will also help you. Okay pa kayo? Ayan? Sige. So, dito muna ako para ma-marinate yung idea sa utak na.
Okay, so my next tip is to make an expense timeline. Okay, so what does this mean? So you jot down the major expenses that you will incur for the next 1 to 2 years actually, ang recommendation ko. So, within the first 2 months or within the next 2 months, ano ba yung mga kailangan ko bayaran? Of course, andun yung mga monthly recurring bills nyo, bills and groceries, tapos, this is just an example. For example, you are planning to attend a certification workshop kasi gusto mo mga i-upgrade yung skills mo. So, yung cost on it would be this much. So, for the next 2 months, this is my expected expenses. And then, within the next 4 to 6 months, I have to renew my domain. And, syempre magpapasko, I have to do some Christmas shopping. Ano ba yung mga expenses ko for the holidays, etc. Within 6 to 12 months, so sabihin natin, my cell phone, I've had this cell phone for 3 years already. It's already slow. So, I'm planning to buy a new smartphone by next year or within the next 6 to 12 months. So, you jot that down. And then, of course, summer is coming, magyayaya na naman yung friends ko, mag-out of town, so I have to prepare for that. And then, beyond 12 months, what are the major expenses that we will be incurring? So, this is an example. My laptop is already 5 years old. I don't want to wait until it breaks down before I buy a new one. So, siguro by next year, I'll buy a new laptop already. And matagal ko na pinag-ipunan, bumili ng bagong condo unit. So, I have to save up for the down payment for the condo that I plan to buy within the next 3 years from now, for example. So, this is an example of an expense timeline. And the reasons why you need to do this is because at least you will have an overview of the coming expenses and subconsciously you will be able to prepare yourself. No? So, an expense timeline helps in effectively planning your budget. Okay? By knowing your upcoming expenses, it's easier to reason your way out of an impulse or unnecessary purchase. So what does this mean? So, katulad ng example ko kanina, you're planning to buy a smartphone by next year kasi nga, gumana yun sa'yo, medyo mabagal na. And of course, for an online freelancer, a smartphone is as an essential item, di ba? Ako, I manage my social media accounts, of course, on my cell phone, etc. So, how much is a new smartphone right now? Around 40,000, a good smartphone already. No? So, if I plan to buy a new smartphone by next year, so sabihin natin 1 year from now, so I have 12 months to prepare for that. So, 40,000 divided by 12, how much is that? So, around 3,000 plus. No? So, when I receive an income right now, binayaran ako ng client. So, wow, I have so much money. So, I look at my expense timeline. Wait, I need to buy a new smartphone by next year. So, the extra 3,000 pesos that I have now, instead of me going to the spa and pampering myself the whole day, I would ask myself, what do I want? Do I want a new smartphone next year? Or do I want to pamper myself to the spa? So, I'm not saying going to the spa is wrong. What I'm saying is that you now have a concrete, you now have concrete goals to ask yourself. Kasi sometimes, what I've noticed is, gusto ko mag-spa, pero alam ko, kailangan ko mag-depend. I need to save money, but I want to go to the spa. More often than not, going to the spa will win. Why? Because that's something more concrete. You can imagine yourself having a relaxing time, feeling good, etc. Versus saving money, which is emotionless. But now, when you have extra money and you're thinking, parang gusto kong mag-spa, I want to go to the spa. But you have something concrete to ask yourself. So, do I spend a day going to the spa or do I save this money because I will buy a new cell phone? So, next year, the iPhone 11 will come out. I just say so, siyempre iPhone 11, I will look at my iPhone 6. iPhone 6, parang this is already slow. Tapos, when I have my iPhone 11, I can now take better pictures for my Instagram, and then faster yung social media apps ko. I can now update my social media accounts better, etc. So, there's now an emotion that you can use to prevent yourself from making unnecessary or non-essential expenses. So that's one of the use, and actually that's how I use the expense timeline. And sino ba dito yung may anak? Who has kids here? Yan. Diba? As your kid in high school or college, elementary, diba? As a registered financial planner, I often do consultations with parents. No? A lot of parents do financial consultations sa akin. And one thing I've noticed is a lot of them, they start thinking about saving money for the tuition pag malapit na magpasukan, 2 to 3 months before magpasukan. But I tell them, your kid goes to school and every year you have to pay tuition. So why don't you start saving for the tuition the whole year round? Not just 2 to 3 months before the start of the school year. Because that's already an essential expense that happens every year, or every quarter, depending on the school. But that's the point. Sometimes we forget. But sometimes we forget to save for these expenses because we are more concerned with the immediate or the near-term expenses that we will be incurring. But having an expense timeline, para sa akin, I have the expense timeline also on my Excel worksheet. There's a separate worksheet where this is listed down. So, ano siya? Top to bottom siya. So, whenever I browse through it, it helps me, it reminds me of these are the things that I need to save up for. Tapos, dun sa item, nakalagay yung date. Tapos, dun sa gilid, nakalagay na rin doon kung how much money I've already saved for that particular expense or for that particular goal. So, sometimes, thinking of it as a game, there's a psychological benefit to it. Kasi, kunwari, my friends and I are planning to go to Hong Kong for a vacation in May. So when we decided to do that a couple of months ago, we told ourselves, okay, our budget is around 10,000 pesos. So what I did is I put it in my expense timeline, so 10,000 pesos, and then little by little, I'm trying to save money to reach the 10,000 goal. And sometimes, nakita ko siya, I'm sure, pag nakita ko siya na parang I've already saved around 8,000 pesos for that goal. Come Christmas time, when a lot of money will come in, pag negosyate ka, you are excited for the holidays because it's really when the sales of your businesses go up. So, instead of me putting in a little few pesos every month towards that goal, meron ako extra pera, bubuuin ko na siya. I just complete it, 10,000, save it, and just forget about it. So that's one of the things that that's one of the things that you can do, no, when you have your expense timeline. You can already budget for each of the financial goals that you have in advance. So it gives you motivation to work and manage your budget properly. Again, it's really very important to have something concrete na pang lalaban mo dun sa impulse purchase na balak mong gawin. Okay? So that's really very important. Sometimes, I have parents who parang gusto ko magbakasyon with my family. So I tell them na, okay, no problem with going on vacation. You're planning an out-of-town trip with a budget of 20,000, etc., etc. But your kid needs a tuition of around 40,000 pesos by August next year. Diba? So I told them na, are you already taking care of that? So when they think about, no? Siguro, road trip na lang kami, hindi na kami mag-out of town na masyadong malayo. So, the goal was to spend time with the family. And usually, it's not really where you go, diba? It's really having the time together. So, yung family na yun,
instead of going to Palawan, nagpatangas na lang sila. And they swear they had a good time and it was really a good bonding experience for the family. But at the same time, they were able to save some money for the tuition of the kid na nag-aaral ng college. So, alam mo yun, it is less stressful. And again, that would not be possible if you don't have an expense timeline. Kasi isipin mo na lang, right now, it's September. And sa enrollment ng August ng college, you will not think about your child's tuition kung next year, August pa, di ba? Ang goal nila yun was to have a family vacation for the next 2 to 3 months. Kasi miss na nila isa't isa. Kasi all of them are busy. So, again, it gives you motivation to work and manage your budget properly by having an expense timeline. Okay ba? Hindi niya yun? Alright. So, this is the last stage. Yeah, this is the last stage when it comes to managing your budget, which is budget organizing. So, and I don't know if you've heard of this, yung savings rule, which is basically income minus savings is equal to expenses. Sinong first time na narinig to? First time. Si Sir. Ayan. So, ganito kasi yan. This is a personal finance strategy. Sabi nila na what most people do is pagdating ng sweldo or pagdating ng pera, they spend first. Tapos, they do their best to minimize their expenses para at the end of the month, may savings. Diba? The better technique is, pagdating ng sweldo, mag-save ka na kaagad. Tapos kung ano yung matira, you can now guilt-free spend all of it. Diba? So, nung nagtatrabaho pa ako, when I was still working, pagdating ng sweldo ko, I try to resist the temptation to spend because I want some money saved at the end of the month. So, that's the reason why I was not successful at saving money. Because it was a stressful experience, di ba? Yung barkada ko, my friends will say, tara, let's go out this weekend, let's go let's eat out and watch a movie, etc. I have to tell them that pass muna ako. I'm not joining because I'm trying to save some money. So that's actually a negative experience, and that's the reason why it failed. But then I shifted my mindset when my salary came, I immediately took away 10% of the income, save it, and then all the rest I spent guiltlessly. So when my friends invite me now, let's go out this weekend, etc., I just have to look at my wallet, and if I see money there, I'll say yes. Okay, let's go. Why? Because even if I spend all my money in my wallet or in my ATM, I know that I already have savings because I already did that at the beginning. So that's why it is the saving rule, and it works very well. Okay? So some people will say that this is pay yourself first, etc. So have a spending priority. So that's basically the rule why the saving. That's basically the reason or the principle behind the saving rule. So when it comes to us, this is a more detailed explanation or a more detailed version of the formula. When you receive your income, you have to allocate some money towards your savings, then allocate some money towards your debt payments, especially if you have credit card debts or you have loans or mortgages. Then, allocate some money towards your essential expenses. And of course, the last on the list is your non-essential expenses. So, if you receive, let's say, 50,000 pesos on a project, so you can now allocate it. So, let's say I'm trying to save 10% of my income. So, sa 50,000 na na-receive ko, 5,000 immediately goes to my savings. I take 5,000, I deposit it in my savings account that is separate from my working account or my daily expense account. So, and then I immediately take a portion of it and pay my credit card or my loan, etc. And then let's say I paid around 5,000 also for my debt payment. So there's already 40,000 pesos left. So I tell myself, for the essential expenses, since I know exactly how much I
I'm spending in a month because I list them down. I know how much of the 40,000 should be allocated there. So let's say I'm spending around 30,000 pesos a month for my essential expenses. Now that leaves me 10,000 pesos for my non-essential expenses. So I can now ask myself, so 10,000, what do I want to do with my 10,000? Do I want to go to the spa? Do I want to buy a new shirt, a new shoe, a new bag, etc. But also, before you do that, meron kang expense timeline, di ba? You can now ask yourself, sa mga future expenses ko, baka maybe I can just allocate this 10,000 or a portion of this 10,000 somewhere for my future expenses. So, that's basically how I do it. And, of course, all of this is happening in an Excel file. I don't know, I'm an Excel nerd, so I love doing this at every week, no? So, I usually budget weekly. So, but the point is, whenever you receive your income, when you know, it is really knowing where your money is going. So, it is taking control of where you want your money to go. Okay? So, hindi ko siya. Mahirap kasi pagdating ng pera, it's just in your ATM, it's just in your wallet. And then you just spend as the cost comes. So, pag may gastos, you just spend and spend. So, the tendency there is if you have more non-essential expenses coming your way, wala ka na natira sa mga essential expenses. But doing this, actually taking control of where you are, where you want your money to go, it is most likely that you will not run out of cash when it comes to your essential expenses. So use your expense timeline to allocate your income. So a more popular term for that is yung envelope method, budget envelope method. So you can Google that and see a lot of tutorials on how to do that. The budget for future expenses goes to the savings fund. So, yun nga, if you go to your expense timeline, I'm buying a new smartphone next year, I have extra 10,000 this month, siguro 5,000 of that goes to my budget for the new smartphone next year. So, I put that 5,000 to my savings account also, but I have in Excel, nakalagay na rin doon kung para sa kanyang pera na yun. So when I see my savings account, I have 100,000 pesos in my savings account. I know exactly what that 100,000 is for, diba? So 100,000 na yan, 5,000 of that, so let's say 30,000 of that is for my new smartphone next year. 40,000 pesos is for my emergency fund, 30,000 pesos is for my new laptop that I will buy 2 years from now, etc. Diba? So it's not just, you're not seeing just a number. A lot of people, pag malaki na yung nakikita sa savings account, nagiging complacent. So, usually the threshold is around 50,000. I've met people, when they see 50,000 pesos in their savings account, parang they start becoming complacent, they start to spend more on non-essential expenses. But you have to justify yourself. What is that 50,000 for? There's an allocation for that, and then that's when they realize na mababa pa pala yung 50,000 pesos. No? Kasi I have these future expenses that I'm trying to save for. So that 50,000 pesos, it now has better meaning. And you realize na kulang pala yung 50,000, kailangan siguro mga 120,000 kasi there are expenses that are coming. Okay? So, monitor regularly and of course, you can adjust accordingly, especially if there's an emergency. So, sometimes, there's a medical emergency, nagkasakit ka, etc. Kailangan mong bumasos, nasira, a typhoon, broke something in your house, you have to fix the room, etc. Now, it's also easier to find where to get the money. So, let's say that I'm trying to save for my summer vacation, but I also need to have the roof in our house fixed. So, I can now say na, well, fixing the roof is more important than going on vacation. So, I can now use the fund for my vacation to fix the house. Diba? So, hindi siya simple na you just look at your savings and then you take the money. So, each
money or each peso is assigned to a particular goal. And you can now adjust accordingly to the needs na expenses na dumadating sa inyo. So don't worry much about running out of money. So this is a tip that I always tell people. Instead, try to focus more on how to make more money. I've met a lot of people, that's really their concern na I'm worried baka wala akong pambayad sa mortgage to next month, etc. I tell them na it's good that you're aware, but do not spend a lot of time worrying. Instead, try to focus on what are the things that you can do now to earn more money. Kasi if you are able to accomplish that goal to make more money, the worry of running out of money will take care of itself. Okay? So, one of the things that you can do so that you can focus on your income is to have an income target. This is very helpful, especially for freelancers who don't have a regular salary. So, what does having an income target mean? Of course, it's not just as simple. It's not just as simple as telling yourself, I need to earn this much. So as much as possible, you have to concretize your goal. So let's say that you are an online freelancer, online freelance writer, and your usual rate is 1 peso per word. I know a lot of online freelancers, 1 peso per word yung kanilang rate. So that means you've calculated your essential expenses and you need 15,000 pesos a month for your essential expenses. So, of course, the income target is 15,000 pesos by common sense. But I tell people, you don't just tell yourself you need to earn 15,000 pesos. Since you're an online freelance writer, you tell yourself you need to write 15,000 words. Tama, di ba? So, now that your income target is to write 15,000 words per month, it's now easier to translate that into a project. So let's say, with 15,000 words, I need to write 20 500 word articles and 1 5,000 word ebook writing project. So, of course, it depends on you kung ano yung combination. But for our illustration, kailangan lang ng 20 articles, 20 500 word articles, saka isang 5,000 word ebook. And then, that's what you now focus on. Saan ba ako makakahanap ng article writing projects? Kailangan ko ng 20. So, pwede siyang pumunta sa mga regular clients niya. Kung meron siyang regular client na nagpapasulat sa kanya ng 15 articles a month, baka pwede niya sabihan yung client niya na maybe you can now, I can actually write more. Maybe instead of just 15 articles a month, you can outsource 20 articles a month from me because I believe I can do it. And that will be helpful for your business because your articles will be more consistent, the writing style will be more consistent because I'm writing more articles for you. So you're trying to convince your client to outsource more work sa'yo. And then of course, 5,000 word ebook writing project. So just once a month, you ask yourself now, who are the people, who are the businesses who needs an ebook? So a lot of affiliate marketers and a lot of affiliate marketers need an ebook. So now I can focus on finding an affiliate marketer, connecting with them, and asking them for a project. Do you want me to write an ebook for you? A 5,000 word ebook is worth 5,000 pesos, etc. So I hope you realize there's a difference when it comes to the mindset. There's a difference between I need to earn 15,000 pesos a month versus I need to have 20 articles and 1 ebook project a month. When you are thinking dun sa version na I need to earn 15,000 pesos a month, your brain will now subconsciously ask yourself, where do I get this? What income stream do I do and do I use to earn 50,000 pesos? And again, since there are many ways to earn online or there are many ways to earn, that will not really help you. Versus,
having a mindset that I need to have 20 articles and 1 ebook project. You're supposedly, your mind will now think of who are the clients that I can go to or where can I find this project. And that will be more helpful sa inyo. So I don't know what you're doing as a freelancer or depending on your skills, but I find personally this more helpful because you are more focused on the concrete way to make money, hindi lang very big. Of course, the first tip ko kanina, if you just spend a lot of time worrying about where to find the money to pay for your necessary expenses, mas stuck ka dun sa worry. And ang isipin ng utak mo is you need to find ways to relax because you're worried, you're anxious, etc. So hindi rin siya very helpful. But if you're more focused on your income goal, your income target, your project target, then I believe that the subconscious mind really works, no? Even if you're sleeping, even if you're doing something mechanical. Me, whenever I'm driving or I'm taking a shower, sometimes ideas come to me. I'm sure you experience that too. And sometimes those ideas answer some of the concerns that I have. So let's say I'm trying to increase my financial consultancy projects. So sometimes when I'm driving, I get an idea. Maybe I should approach this person and ask for a referral because I remember this person telling me that she has a network of these people who are looking for a financial advisor. So sometimes these ideas come to me when I'm doing something mechanical, and since I'm focused on finding a specific project, then my mind helps me in thinking, my subconscious mind. So now, find clients that can help you achieve your income target. Malinaw ba yun? I was able to explain that. Yeah. So, sometimes hindi nagigets kagad yung idea na yun. So, I'm glad that we're able to understand that. Okay, so, we're busy minimizing our expenses, we're busy trying to make more money. One thing that a lot of people forget is the money that you save, you have to protect that. Okay? So, freelancers don't have a fixed income, of course, and there will be hills and valleys. They are normal and they will happen frequently. Okay? So, from personal experience, July, August, September, mahina ang income ng freelancer. Okay? I don't know because siguro some of the businesses, they're trying to consolidate their project, they're trying to save money because sa last quarter, that's when they really spend for advertising. So, I don't know what your experience is, but for me, yun nga, July, August, September, medyo lean season yan. Tapos, of course, holidays, medyo mataas ang income. And then, up until January. February, March, it's the average. Tapos, summer, medyo mataas yan. For online freelancers, I'm talking about the experience of online freelancers. So, this one. So, you need to prepare yourself financially for lean seasons by building an emergency fund. So this is very important. An emergency fund is not just money for emergencies. It's also money that you can use during your lean season. And especially now that inflation is rising, I believe that the prices of goods will eventually taper down, or you will be able to find ways to increase your income. But before that happens, you have to make do with the rising cost of living with your current salary. So to augment your spending, that's where the emergency comes. That's where the emergency fund will be very helpful. So when it comes to the emergency fund, I recommend having at least 6 months worth of your expenses. When you spend around 20,000 pesos a month, that means ang emergency fund mo is around 120,000 pesos. So medyo mataas, but of course,
thank you.
You'll never know, especially kung freelancer ka.
you never know when a lean season will happen. I know some freelancers, if they've experienced 3-4 months walang projects. And I know some people, freelancers, wala silang emergency fund. Isang buwan na hindi nagka-project. Ano na? Agitated na, they become really anxious. 2 months, they're on panic mode, they're already writing resumes, ready to submit it to companies for employment. And then on the 3rd month, they're already having job interviews. And gano'n, they go back to the corporate world and they leave their freelancing career behind because they did not have an emergency fund and they ran out of money. So, a lot of portion of your income towards it every month and any excess cash at the end of the month until you complete it. Kanina, di ba, meron tayong saving formula. Yung income minus savings is called to expenses. So, yung ilang alat mo na pera for your savings, that's actually your emergency fund. So, yung example ko kanina, 50,000 minus 5,000 for my savings. So, that 5,000 is collected for my emergency fund. So, you cannot build your emergency fund within the year. From experience and from my clients, usually it takes around 2 to 3 years to build an emergency fund. When I say to build an emergency fund, to build that 6 months worth of expenses. And that's okay because hindi naman lagi nakakaroon ng emergency. Diba? But once you're able to complete your emergency fund, you'll be able to take more risk when it comes to investing and you will have less worries and less anxiety when it comes to your finances. So you'll never fully appreciate an emergency fund until you experience an emergency. So just trust me on this. Okay? So I had a lot of people come back to me thanking me na buti na lang pinili ko sila gumawa ng emergency fund kasi nakatulong daw talaga. Nakatulong. So, if you've never experienced a dire financial emergency, don't wait for that to happen. So, build your emergency fund today. Okay? So, your health is your greatest asset. Of course. So, don't self-medicate. Marami akong kilala, masakit yung ulo, inom na ng gamot. Okay. Pero kung masakit yung ulo mo for 3-4 days already, baka mamaya, 2 more times. Could be something more serious. You have to go to the doctor. So don't self-medicate. Go and see a doctor when you're not feeling well. So having health insurance means you will always get proper medical attention and prescription. And my recommendation, especially for freelancers, this is something a lot of people forget, especially freelancers and entrepreneurs. You need to apply for PhilHealth, pay your PhilHealth. Kasi PhilHealth has a lot of benefits. Okay? You don't have to be employed to have PhilHealth. You can pay it yourself and then apply for and get a basic HMO package for yourself. So, how do you choose the right health insurance? Go to the hospital where you want to be confined if you get sick. And then ask the hospital what are the health insurance companies that they accredit or which health insurance companies have an accreditation do sa hospital na yun. Okay? Kasi don't make the mistake of getting a health insurance company na mura. Pero hindi naman pala accredited doon sa hospital na gusto mo ma-confine or doon sa malapit na hospital or clinic. A friend of mine got a health insurance. I want to mention the health insurance company. So, mura, he paid only around 6,000 pesos a year. He pays around 6,000 pesos a year only. Taga-Paranaque siya. Noong nagkasakit siya, tinignan niya ano yung nearest clinic or hospital sa Makati pa. So, from Paranaque, pupunta pa siya ng Makati para lang patingin sa doktor. So, sabi ko, yung tollway mo pala, luwi ka na agad, di ba? Why don't you just get a more expensive health insurance? Yes, it will cost you around 10,000 pesos a year. But, it's accredited to sa hospital na malapit sa'yo. Diba? So, you don't have to go that far. Plus, anytime that you're not feeling well, there will be no hesitation to go to the hospital. Kahit na just a simple check-up. Alam niyo ba na heartburn, the symptoms and the feeling of a heartburn is the same as a heart attack. Okay. So, I have heartburn. So, ako, when I experience heartburn, sometimes kinakabahan ako baka heart attack to. So, I don't have any hesitation in going to the emergency room just to have myself check if is this a heart attack or just a heartburn. So, fortunately, 100% of my incidents are all heartburn. So, but again, if I don't have health insurance, di ba, what will I do? I have to prepare to spend when I go to the emergency room. And I know, kasi when I go to the emergency room, before the health insurance company approves the bill, I get to sign the statement. And one trip to the ER, for my case of experiencing heartburn, it's already around 1,800 pesos. So, alam mo yun, every time na magkaka-heartburn attack ako, which happens twice a month or so, di ba? That's still around 3,000 plus pesos na expenses. So, if I'm spending 3,000 pesos a month, in a year, that's 15,000 pesos. So, mas mura kumuha ng health insurance. Ang individually paying health insurance will cost around 10,000 pesos. That's a basic package. But ang PhilHealth is around 150 pesos a month. That's what I remember. Yeah. So, around 11,000, 12,000 pesos. I'm already covered. And sometimes, I have clients kasi in Laguna, kasi part of Sinlo and family, etc. So, there was this one time na inaako ako mag-drive. So, what's the usual tip when you're sleepy, you stop and then you take a nap, di ba? Pero sabi ko, I don't want to nap in my car. I don't want to check in a hotel just to sleep. So what I did, I have a list of the accredited hospitals. I found a hospital. And then I checked myself inside emergency room. I told them that I'm sleepy, I'm driving, can I just have a bed where to take a nap? And they did. They provided me. And then I told them I covered the month. And I didn't have to pay for anything. So, mga birds, sometimes you have to know these things. So, nakatipid ako. Kinausap ako ng health insurance kasi hindi naman daw emergency. Pero I visit my way up. Hindi siya emergency, but if I fall asleep while driving, that would be an emergency. So, how much would it be? No? Sabi, well, the hospital, wala silang case for sleeping or taking a nap. But they can charge it as a regular check-up, which is around 500 pesos. So sabi, over it, it's just 500 pesos. So, anyway, the last tip, I believe this is my last tip, making it a habit. Okay? So, how do you make budgeting a habit? So, budgeting can be meticulous. Amin ko sa inyo, maarte sa kumpisa, marami siyang ginagawa. And, it can be really overwhelming at madali. It's normal. It's normal to forget doing it and feel lazy about it. So, pag nakalimutan ko siya gawin ngayon, huwag kang maghihintay ng next month or next year para simulan siya ulit. Bukas, gawin mo na siya ulit. So, that's how you become persistent. I know a lot of people na, sige, mag-budget na ako this month. Tapos nakalimutan na ng isa, dalawang araw. Next month na lang ulit. Huwag ganon. Pag naalala nyo, gawin mo na siya ulit. Tapos, especially sa budgeting, you don't really have to be super accurate. Of course, you're trying to learn the skill, you're trying to learn the habit. So, at the end of the day, pag hindi kayo sure, magkano nga ba yung nagastos ko, then you just estimate it. Kasi eventually, once you do it over the next few months, the more accurate numbers will reflect on your records, on your budget, and eventually you'll be able to better manage your income and your spending. And studies show that it takes a little over 2 months or 66 days to form a new habit. This is the scientific study, no? A lot of people kasi it takes 21 days to form a habit, may mga 7 days, etc.
proven na by scientific studies na it takes a little over 2 months, so 60-60. So if you're trying to form the budget habit, the habit of creating and following a budget, allow yourself 2 to 3 months to adjust. Okay? So the key is to be patient and persistent, and you'll discover that it eventually becomes faster and easier to do as months go by. So especially kung ako, yung budget ko for my groceries. At first, talagang meticulous kasi I have to list down lahat ng pinipili ko. But ngayon, since meron akong previous record, ang dali na mag-copy-paste kasi my spending doesn't really change that much. Diba? Kasi, of course, I also try to maintain consistency when it comes to my groceries. So, yun nga, sabi ko na I try to stick to a particular quantity when it comes to my groceries. So, eventually, it comes to a point na yung budget mo last month, it's the same budget for this month. So, you just have to copy-paste it. And then, when there's katulad ngayon, rising prices of goods because of inflation, it's not easy for me to adjust. Ito na lang yung mabawasan ko. So next month, it's not really that ridiculous. Kasi if you're just starting, you have to pinpoint pa, diba? Kasi you have to analyze, you have to look at your expenses, ano yung mababawasan, ano yung kailangan mong mabawasan to be able to cope with the rising prices of goods. But if you've been doing budgeting for several months now, mas ma-discover mo na, medyo tumaas na yung tumaas na yung gasolina. The moment I realized that I have to save, I have to cut some expenses. I don't have to look at my budget anymore kasi since I've been doing it regularly, I already know where to cut my spending. So, that's why it eventually becomes faster and easier. So, pagdating ko sa bahay, pagharap ng tuwas ng Excel, I already know where to adjust my budget. I don't have to go through the expenses anymore and analyze ano ba yung pwede kong bawasan dito. I immediately know ano yung mabawasan ko to cope with the new expenses or the higher expenses. So, ayun, you just have to be persistent and you have to be patient. It's normal na makalimutan mo siya, it's normal na tamalit ka. The important thing is, once na ma-realize mo na hindi mo na siya nagagawa, gawin mo na siya agad. And it doesn't really matter how many times mo siya tinatry na gawin. As long as you don't give up, eventually it becomes a habit. I've been doing my budget for 2003, since 2003. When I started freelancing, that's when I realized na kailangan ko mag-budget kasi hindi na ako sumisweldo. I resigned from my last corporate job, 2003. So that's when I started becoming a freelancer. My first freelancing job was a software developer. So programmer ako. And a lot of my com-sci friends were just outsourcing sa akin yung mga modules of projects sila. And eventually, I was able to take in my own projects. And yun na-realize ko. The way that I was spending before, when I was still working, hindi ko na siya pwedeng gawin when I was a freelancer. Because I have additional costs na necessary. And the only way to really stay as a freelancer was to be more cautious of my budget. So, I've been budgeting since 2003. And up until now, at saka, yun nga, usually, na siya subconscious because that's the beauty with our minds. It usually creates connections in your brain cells so that yung mga repetitive tasks, it becomes mechanical. I don't know if you know how to drive, di ba? Nung umpisa, conscious na sa daan, pero after a few months, a year or two, pwede ka na makipag-chismisan doon kasama mo, hindi ka na mapangga. Kasi autopilot din pag-drive mo. It's the same with budgeting. At first, it will be ridiculous, it will be nakakatamad. But once you train yourself and it becomes a habit, autopilot na siya. Okay. So, next. So let's summarize. So, how do you outsmart your wallet? Of course, the first is to monitor your budget, which is basically really tracking
it really boils down to tracking your expenses and analyze your cash flow to know where exactly your money is going. Okay? So kailangan alam mo kung saan pupunta yung pera mo para pwede mo siya masabihan na, uy, huwag ka dyan pupunta. Dito ka pupunta kasi dito yung kailangan ko. So it's really about tracking your expenses. When it comes to planning your budget, it helps to start with streamlining your expenses. So, bawasan yung mga hindi importante para meron kang pera or budget sa mga importante. And understand that it is a process. When it comes to organizing your budget, it is a process that you need to be persistent and patient with until it becomes a habit. Okay? So again, 66 days to form a habit according to studies. So allow yourself 2 to 3 months of adjustments. Okay? So I'd rather have the pain of discipline rather than experiencing the pain of regret. So mas gusto ko na maghirap kasi hindi na ako sa sarili ko ngayon kaysa maghirap in the future because hindi ko ilalagaan yung budget ko. I ignored my expenses, I ignored my finances, and then when an emergency comes, I have no money. Diba? I'd rather experience the pain of forcing myself to do this rather than experiencing that kind of pain. Okay? So, I guess that's my last slide. Okay? Yes, yun. So, thank you for listening. I hope you learned a lot. If you have Twitter, follow nyo ako at Brad Pitts. Okay? Brad Pitts. So, activity. Yun. So, meron tayong activity para ma-reinforce yung natutunan natin this afternoon. Activity time. Next one. Yeah. So, mechanics. So, individually, so let's do practical application of what you learned. So, list down a list of your monthly expenses. Okay? So, only what you can remember. Kasi that's a good way for you to realize how, marami akong gastos na hindi ko na nakaalala. That's something that I mentioned earlier, diba? So, that is a reminder for you to really list down your expenses as it happens. So, list down all your monthly expenses, kung ano yung ma-remember nyo. So, don't require yourself, paano yung maalala? And then, identify what is your biggest expense. Okay? So, sabi ko kanina, if you want to minimize your expenses, you have to target your biggest budget offenders. So by listing down your expenses, you can identify saan ba talaga yung pinakamalaki na gastos ko na alam ko pwede ko namang bawasan. So what are the challenges you're facing when it comes to managing your expenses? Okay. Kasi what I realized is when you put your problems into words, if you write it down, natatanggal yung load sa ulo mo. Tapos, it's now easier to think of a solution. I don't know if you experienced that before. No? Sometimes, pag meron tayong mga pinaproblema, pag iniisip na natin siya, it's just a burden. So, when it comes to our budget, you have to concretize or verbalize ano ba talaga yung problem ko when it comes to managing my budget. Write it down. Kasi once na sinunod mo siya, once you are able to verbalize or write down your biggest challenge, your mind frees up for the solution. Okay? So, and then, of course, I also want you to write down how are you currently addressing those challenges. Okay? So, again, it's also a helpful reminder sa inyo na, okay, ito yung problema ko, pero ito yung ginagawa ko. So, sometimes it's also a helpful exercise for you to realize that, I know that I can do more things. Diba? So, kasi ito lang pala yung ginagawa. Okay? So I mentioned that, so you have 20 minutes to work on your list, and we will ask 5 volunteers to share to the group, and I will give tips on how to address your budgeting challenges. So again, it's important for you to list down your biggest challenges when it comes to budgeting and then write down ano yung currently na ginagawa nyo. And later on, when you share it,
in front. Yeah. I can now help you na paano mo siya mas ma-address. And hopefully, other people in the group can also be with it. So, pwede tayo magtulungan dito on how to address these budgeting concerns. So, when volunteers will get exciting PayPal prices, volunteer lang ako. Meron din pa ako. So, yun, I hope so post your focus on it. Picture. So anyways, I go back to the previous slide. So, yun. So, yun na lang muna. I'll give you time to focus on your list. Okay?
Gusto nyo isa?
Yes. Ganda ng shirt ha. Ba't ako? Ay, di mo ba yan?
Binili na.
So, yeah, good afternoon guys. So, monthly expenses ko would be basic stuff. Food, internet connection, mobile phone bills, electric bill, water bill, and of course, transportation. So those are my monthly expenses. My biggest expense would have to be transportation. Yeah. So one of the ways I address that is mostly by commuting.
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't like getting stuck in traffic. And nakapaka naman ng pamasahe ngayon, especially if you're taking Grab. So I would rather bike to work. I use a folding bike, which I can fold and bring it almost everywhere. Yeah. And challenges would be, like what was mentioned earlier, the impulsive buy. Yeah. Unable to keep track of my expenses, which I'm still working on. I used to use an app, pero I don't have the patience. Yeah, and how am I addressing those challenges? By attending workshops like this, so that I can learn. And one of the ways that I address that is not bringing too much cash with me, and I leave my ATM card usually at home. So I won't feel the need to withdraw money and spend too much. So I just usually bring around 500 at the most. Sometimes less. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Let's that actually works. I also do that. Yung cash ko sa wallet is enough for my projected expenses for the day. You know? And ako medyo paranoid din. I still have an ATM, pero ano siya, as much as possible hindi siya ginagalaw. And one of the easiest way to budget your expenses, kung hindi ka pa talaga nakakapag-list down ng mga expenses mo, for example, is you try to see na, for example, 30,000 a month yung budget mo for your expenses. So that roughly translates to 1,000 pesos a day. So just make sure that you have 1,000 pesos sa wallet mo and nothing more. So at least at the end of the day, kung may matira doon, pwede siyang savings na or going towards other expenses. Pero that's a good start. Nililimit mo yung ano. I don't know if kung napapansin ko, pag marami kang pera, may mataas yung tendency mo na gumastos. Lalo na pag-barya. Pag-barya. Mas madaling gastusin. So ako, I make sure na naka-project ano ba yung gagastos ko this day, and then I will just have enough for that. And then, as much as possible, iniiwasan ko ibayad yung mga malalaking bills. Iniiwasan ko magbayad ng 1,000 or 500 pesos. Kasi pag na-break na yung 1,000 pesos ng ibang papel, pati ko 100, mas mabilis siya mag-impulse buy sa psychological thing. Mas madaling kasusin yung 100 pesos kaysa pag nakita mong buo pa yung 1,000, nakaka-hesitate na gastusin siya. So, just a simple tip. Thank you. Next, sinong gusto? Okay, sir. 1, 2, and 4. So, 5 na yun, no?
So currently I'm working as game designer full-time. So
So yung expenses to monthly is pinaka-highest yung rent sa condo. Then, telephone bill, water, electricity, food, laundry, Yossi, yung weekend na unexpected.
Set mo naman
As yung so, the challenge is how to discipline yourself to manage my money more in a wiser way. Mas paano yung discipline si girlfriend?
Kasi pag sinabi
Okay. Kasi minsan mahirap nila. So yun. Yun yung challenge na and we grew up kasi na oriented with saving money. So yun may isa mahirap.
send ko mamaya sa
Thank you for sharing.
audio.
Hello, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Tagal na kayo dalawa.
Audio?
2 years. So, I believe you're at the point that you can openly discuss your personal finance. Kasi preparation na rin yan for long-term relationships. So, that's also one of the things that I've discovered, especially sa mga couples. One of the top things that they fight about is finances. So, of course, kung girlfriend, boyfriend, mas open na kayo sa communication when it comes to your personal finance, mas maganda. Okay? So, also one tip, I don't know, kasi sabi mo may kayo inuman para kasama ka. And one of the things that I've learned is, especially when I'm with my friends, rather than just talking about anong latest na viral video, etc. You can lead the conversation towards more productive topics. No? Ano ba magandang business ngayon? Ano ba racket, etc. So, that's a tip. Again, I don't really like imposing things on people na huwag mong gawin yan. No? But there's always a way to make it more productive, to make it more useful for you. So, if you like hanging out with friends, probably other than just going to the bar, you can just drink at home, and then, yun nga, why not think of ways to make money, discuss it with your friends. Minsan may business idea pa kayo ma-buy-sell. So that's something that we can do. Okay, so yung next scene, naalala ko. So na natin.
Hi, good afternoon. Number one, my monthly expenses are, number one is my mortgage, because I bought a condo, and groceries for food and utilities. The reason I bought a condo because I work in an English online school, so I need to have a quiet place because before I used to live in Sampalat, Manila, so we know that it's a compound. So my boss was complaining that sometimes he heard some noises. Yes. So I got a lot of complaints. So that's the main reason. So before I lose my job, so I thought of buying my own things. And number two, my biggest expense is syempre the mortgage and the challenges. The first year, my biggest challenge is sometimes I had a short budget and before I used to support my parents. So for now. Hindi na masyado. So because I don't want to pay my mortgage late because the penalty is so high. So sayang naman. So number four, how I address those challenges. I cut some my utilities. Before, I used to have a cable, Sky cable. So,
Thank you for sharing. I also support my parents actually. But one of the things that I discovered, pwede gawin is I help them find source of income themselves. So, both my parents are retired na. So, sa bahay na. And particularly my father, tinuruan ko manage ng Facebook pages. So, ito taking naman kasi tatay ko. So now, I have a couple of ramen restaurants na yung tatay ko yung nagmamanage. So it's an extra income for them. So I don't have to give them as much financial support every month kasi meron na sila sarili source of income. And mahirap sa pagbabayad ng mortgage kasi sa condo. Di ba usually after 2-3 years, tumataas yung monthly. So again, the expense timeline will really help, no? Kasi pag gusto mo gumastos, hindi na wala expense na hindi, kailangan mo mag-ipon. So that really helps. And a lot of people, sinasabi nila parang it's either you enjoy life now or you save, di ba? And one of the biggest challenges kasi, dahil na, is kung may mag-travel. And I always tell people, you actually have the choice to do both. You can travel and save money at the same time. But of course, dapat medyo pragmatic. And I also like traveling. What I've learned is, it's not really the destination, but the experience. What does this mean? Yung pag limited yung budget, we don't really have to go far. You can travel even yung mga undiscovered places in Metro Manila. Meron yan eh. Just within the city. And there are I'm sure you know that we have museums in the city, di ba? Aside from the National Museum, sa likod, meron pang museum ng archaeological history of the Philippines, etc. So, minsan yung mga friends ko, they were hesitant. Kaya yung museum, paano daw sila dyan? Pero pinigil ko. At the end of the day, sila pa yung tuwang-tuwa. So, sometimes you can discover these activities and you don't have to go far. Even in Cavite, there's a lot of, I don't know, if you like going to old churches, marami sa Cavite, you can go around the whole thing. It's cheaper, it's travel, and you get to experience that with your friends or your family. So, hindi naman kailangan out of town lang. So, that's what I do. Of course, if you really want to out of town, kasi sasakay na plano na travel, then put it in your expense timeline, pay a budget for it. So, you can do both. No? Enjoy your life today, but at the same time, prepare for the future. Masyado kasi na-demonize yung, naging magkabila yung mga magastos dahil sa travel. But for me, find a way to do both kasi there's always that option to do both. Hindi kailangan pamili. Okay? So, that's something that I can add to that. Okay, so, next, sir.
Use of monthly expenses, hinati ko siya sa variable fixed cost. Sa variable, nilagay ko utilities, water bills, kasi lutago naman yan. Kung madalas ka maglaba, so, variable yan. So, yung kuryente rin, electricity bill, under the utilities, nilagay ko rin sa variable. Siyempre, kasi kumamit ko na nakakain ko rin. Then, food and groceries, of course, based on purchase natin. Transportation, depende kung ano rin expensive. Pero we was also good. Internet communication, actually nilagay sa isa, fixed cost. But that if monthly, pag monthly yan, fixed it. Pero prepaid up na. So nilagay ko siya sa variable cost, prepaid. Then, entertainment and lifestyle expense, of course. Bar life. Then sa fixed cost, nilagay ko insurance, life, insurance, non-life, and HMO, healthcare, kasi gumastos pa rin tayo nito. Even though it's called investment, pero still, naglabas ka pa rin ang pera. Kung may income mo, minus expense. Pero we're not only focusing on expenses such as utilities, food and groceries. There's anything that lumabas sa income mo, expense yan. But pinatay pa ng insurance, life, non-life, HMO, including mutual fund, or any other investment. Kasi yan yung tinatawag na expense for investment, for the future. So, kasi pag nag-save ka na lang, talo tayo kasi if we're just saving, napupunta lang din yung pera na sa banko, which earns 0.25 on the regular bank savings. But kung ginagawa mo naman sa time deposit, 2.5 o 1. Pero inflation, 3 or 4. But as declared by month of June or July, umabot tayo ng 5. Eh, naglabas na ang government ng RTP, inflation na around something like 4. Eh, inflation na sa 5. Talo pa rin. So, we have to not just invest, save, but also invest. So, para lalong mapit natin inflation. So, nilagay ko sila under ng fixed cost kasi, for example, if I'm paying insurance like 10,000, pero hindi siya monthly, kung annual siya. So, annual. Pero kasi depende sa mga payment kasi sa monthly, quarterly, or annual. So, pero kasi burden ng monthly, quarterly, parang magkakaroon ng lera. Bayaran na lang ng 1 month. 1 year, isang taksa na lang. Ngayon sa biggest expense ko is nilagay ko yung grocery talaga. Then pumapangalawa yung mga investment nito. Investment lifestyle. At just sa lack of funds or sufficient funds available with the day grants kasi sinasabi nila sa HMO o sa doctor section. There are times na tinatawag na dry month. Ito na bed month. So yun na yan. Ngayon, ang naging current address ko for those challenges, advance payment of my investment sometimes as early as 3 to 6 months earlier on the due date. Nakapansin ko pa rin, mas nakakatulong siya. Halimbawa, merong babayaran ng month of July, parang sabihin natin June 15. Pero, halimbawa, ito na lang, halimbawa, December 15. May tagal ko kayo. Parang instead na parang kasi meron tayong price sa pera. When the day comes, parang bomba yan. So, pakita yung bomba, abangan nila lang. Gumagawa ka ng trench test or pump shed, hindi pa tumarap yung bomba. So, kaya nga, yung December 15, is na ano, may pabayang insurance. Ngayon parang pinabayang mo na. Kaya nakakatulong, pero pagdating ng June 15, wala na. So yung naipo ko pa pera na June 15, pwede ko pa i-advance sa investment or other nakakatawa sa mga mutual fund. So, mas maganda yung mga gawin nila. Mas helpful siya. I-advance ko yung investment mo, mga as well as 3 to 6 months. When the day comes, wala, kung magano mas maganda yun, hintay mo lang, habang natutulog ka, naku, di ba bayaran ako? O yung, bayad na ako, anong gagawin ko sa pera? So it's up to you for how to dispose those naipon mo on that day. Then pagdating sa lifestyle, food and groceries, diet lifestyle. Wala talagang, yung sa ano walang option, talagang diet ang talagang mag-isip.
Thank you for sharing. At forward-thinking sir, investments. And I agree, once we are able to live comfortably,